Zack Weiner here with Penn Baseball captain Greg Zebrack. Greg, I know that as a California kid, you grew up a UCLA fan, but with the Quakers taking on the Bruins, I'm sure you're pulling for the Quakers. How closely do you follow and support the other Penn athletics teams?
Well, I actually have never been to a Penn basketball game before. I kind of want to go see him because I hear Zach Rosen's a baller, and he's a fellow Jew. So I want to check him out, but I've never been to a game. I've been to one football game. It's tough because I used to go to SC and then come back here. Football games are a little different. But we're close with the soccer team. We're close with the lacrosse team. So we do, and we're friends with most of the football players too. So we're all like supportive of each other. We don't always get the chance to catch all their games, but the athletic community here is pretty tight.
Nice. So do you find yourself, because you're one of the top athletes on Penn's campus, do you find yourself drawn to some of the other top athletes that you can relate to, perhaps?
I'm not. I don't really know exactly who the best athletes are on the other teams, but I don't really think of it that way. I mean, I try to be friendly with almost everyone, and I have met Billy Ragone, I've met Zach Rosen, obviously, and I would consider myself like really good friends with them. I'd like to be, but I don't think any of us think of ourselves as, we don't break ourselves into different groups of types of athletes. So.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So do you guys ever, share advice? I mean, I know you guys play different sports, but I'm sure there's some parallels there.
Right. We talk to, not really as much with, Billy and Zach, but I'm real close to a lot of the other football guys. And, yeah, we do talk about sports. We talk about, different things that are going on within our teams. And I think we don't specifically ask, what should we do here, what should we do there. But just from talking about athletics and talking about sports, watching games with each other, the nature of our conversation, different things will come out of that will help us or help our teams better. Like they'll better both of our teams in terms of maybe a leadership standpoint or so forth. But just from being around them and hanging out with them, we'll always pick each other's brains and get cool stuff out of each other.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Again, Zack Weiner here with Penn Baseball captain Greg Zebrack. Now, Greg, I know that out of high school you were drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers and you spent your freshman year at USC. Would you mind telling us a bit about that journey and why, in the end, you decided to play here at Penn?
Yeah, getting drafted by the Dodgers obviously was really cool. Growing up in LA, going to Dodger games since I was a baby was awesome. But we never got to the point where I was really considering signing. It's always been a dream to play at SC. SC baseball, for a lot of people don't realize, they're like the Yankees to college baseball. They've won 12 national titles, it's like 6 more than the closest team. So it was always a dream going there. So I played my freshman year. I had a good fall, played well in the fall, then didn't do too well in the season. Was kind of a role player, and came back in my sophomore year. Kind of had a good fall again, but wasn't going to start right away. And baseball is a funny sport. It's different than football, like say in terms of SC. Like Mark Sanchez sat for 2-3 years, jumped right in, was a starter, was a first-round pick. You can't do that playing baseball. Baseball, you have to play every day. Each game of failure, when you're going to fail 7 out of 10 times, you're pretty good. You're a Hall of Famer. So knowing that I wasn't going to play every day, probably have to fight for playing time, be a fourth outfielder, a role player, came to the decision that it was probably best to transfer. And there's also, coach ended up getting fired. It was a sticky situation, but I'm glad I came to Penn. It was the right decision because I came here and I was able to play every day and develop as a player. So that's pretty much why I ended up here, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're pretty happy here. Now, looking back on these past 2 years here at Penn, what accomplishment are you most proud of?
There's not really one that stands out because we didn't have too hot of a year last year. But it was nice. It's been nice to be able to play every single day. It's fun. I guess looking back at playing in California my whole life, it's always sunny. It's always nice. It's really easy to play. Coming out here, it was different. It's cold. It's not easy. We don't get to play outside in the spring, well, in the winter at least. All the way through March we're inside. So I was excited with the way that I dealt with that. I think a lot of players coming from the West Coast to the East Coast is a tough adjustment. I think I did a decent job of handling that, and so I guess that was one accomplishment that I'm proud of. I did get off to a slow start last year, and I'm not making any excuses. And I think that I tried not to let the fact that we were inside for that long and that was a big change be the reason for my, not playing as well. But I'm glad that I was able to overcome that, adversity. So I guess that would be my most guess, prized accomplishment.
Nice, pretty insightful. So in your final collegiate season, what are both you and your team looking to accomplish?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Phil Jackson quote, like no expectations, no disappointment. So I don't like to expect too much, just in case, you want to stay level-headed. But I think we're a pretty solid team. We're young this year. We got a lot of freshmen who are going to have to be thrown into the fire and step up. But I think all Ivy League teams do that. That's just the nature of the Ivy League. I think we're going to be all right. We're going to swing the bat. We're going to hit. Pitching's always a question. We have some guys who can throw. But last year we also had the same mindset, and it turns out that our pitching was one of our strong points. So, I think that in the Ivy League, it's not always the most talented team that wins, because last year we clearly were the most talented team and we didn't come out on top. So I think we're going to be all right. It's just a grind. It's how mentally tough we can stay and hopefully get hot at the right time and go from there.
Great. Thanks a lot for doing this interview, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, Zach.
All right. From XPN, this is Zack Weiner.